Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday night. It is 2100, and it's time for the Brushfire Mind. This week was National Speak Like a Pirate Day on Monday. Now, I'm going to start us off today with a funny little anecdote. On Monday, I did not know that it was International Talk Like a Pirate Day, and I was stuck in traffic about an hour's drive away from my house and happened to be passing by a Krispy Kreme donut store. And I said to myself, Self, you're a big fat do-nothing. Why don't you stop and get a dozen donuts and take one or two of them home to the kids? Plus, I'm out of coffee, so I could use a drink. So I stopped to get me some coffee and some donuts. I did not know that it was Talk Like a Pirate Day. And Krispy Kreme gives donuts away for free on Talk Like a Pirate Day. So, yeah, I'm doing that with the family next year because, wow. So I get in there, and I just happen to have, just complete random, I happen to have a Skull and Crossbones bandana in my pick-em-up truck that I use to wipe the sweat off my face sometimes. So I just tied that bad boy around my head, walked up to the counter and said, "Arr!" After about 30, 45 minutes in line. But arr! And sure enough, they handed me a dozen donuts for free, and I got 9 of them home safely. Which, I mean, it was just a funny little thing. But what struck me as really interesting is apparently they tell the schools about this. So there were a lot of families in there. Mommy and daddy had all the babies rounded up. There was one couple that had 4 or 5 kids, all between probably the ages of 2 and 10. And every one of the kids wasn't just wearing like just a little costume pirate hat and a little plastic eye patch or something. No, every one of the kids had a pretty decent, pretty high quality pirate hat, a pirate hook, a little toy sword, an eye patch, like piratey pants and a big swashbuckle sash, and we're running around, and each one of the kids they had beards and goatees drawn on their faces with like eyeliner or something. It was fantastic. And there's proud daddy walking out of the store with 7 dozen donuts in a plastic bag. Yeah, so that was a great way to start this week. Especially given, how else we started this week. So here we are in Georgia. That's where I live. That's where most of the show's broadcast from. We had an oil spill last week in Alabama, an oil pipeline break. And I'm sorry, guys, I got to futz with this camera a little bit more. Okay. I figure if I at least get most of the beard from like the bottom up, I'm doing pretty good here. So it was shocking to me that as early as Monday morning, I was passing by gas stations that were just slap out. No, not they had raised their prices, just slap out. Now, okay, problems fixed. They've started pumping gas back into the state again, and no big deal. So we're recovered from it. But here's what I think is interesting about that. Think about every time you've ever heard that an oil pipeline burst. It happens. It has happened. Now, there are reasonable reasons for that sort of failure. Things that we might expect. But we don't ever hear those reported. You don't hear human error causes oil pipeline spill, or pipeline bursts due to lack of maintenance, or pressurization busts seals, or terrorists sabotage pipeline, or drunk guy in a pickup truck runs the fuck over it. You don't ever get the story. What happened? And I haven't looked into it real hard to find out what happened with that one. It was that little piece of it that struck me as odd. The headline is oil pipeline spill. But why? So I definitely challenge everyone to kind of think about that. Why don't we ever get that as the headline? I don't care what the reason is. why isn't that part of the story? Because it seems like a salient factor, doesn't it? I mean, you'd like to think that, oh yeah, we fixed it. No, that's not good enough. What was the problem? What had to be fixed? And I'm going to go ahead and open up the line to the boys. I told them I don't want to talk about the riots or Charlotte or blacks killing blacks and black cops and all this stuff. So of course that's going to end up being part of our discussion tonight. But I definitely want to go ahead and rip it open to the boys and see where we go with this. I want to get some thoughts on why we never hear why the oil line burst. And I do expect some congratulations for my apparent talent to just keep running my mouth with a straight face, even despite the silly hat effect.
Okay. I've lived in Alaska for some years. Some years back, we had an entire oil tanker go down. The Exxon Valdez went down. That did not disrupt. What's that?
We may have heard of that.
You might have, yeah. Well, it did not disrupt oil prices. It did not disrupt oil and gas availability. About 10 years ago, a drunken, irate native shot a hole in the Alaska pipeline with a rifle. He shot the same location on that pipeline until he put a hole in it. And the pressure was so intense, it sprayed oil for a mile. Nobody ever heard about it outside of Alaska. My point that I'm trying to relate is you heard about it for a reason, because somebody wanted you to hear about it. That means that they were looking for a jack up in oil prices or in oil rescue stocks, or it either had something to do with making money, or it was a beta test for what happens when we disrupt an oil supply pipeline.
You know, I'm not normally one to fall down the conspiracy theory hole. I do think that people lie and governments lie, and sometimes there are big plots that could be uncovered and so forth and so on. But I don't normally believe in conspiracy theories generally. However, it's funny that you mention it because I said something so similar to my wife. She and I went out on a date on Saturday night because it was our wedding anniversary. And we had to stop at 4 different gas stations on the way home because the first 3 were out of gas. And we had just left to go see Jason Bourne, so I was very much in a spy and espionage kind of frame of mind. And I said to my wife, said, they could be recording a whole bunch of metadata right now about how bad a terror attack on the pipeline would be. Because if you wanted to really, really, really cripple people, this would be how you would do it. Like I could not do my job if there was not gas in my car. I could sit down and I could pull insurance quotes all day long, but if I can't drive over to your house and have you sign the contract, I'm not actually working and nobody's actually getting paid. And it just really made me wonder: is this some kind of dry run for? How much will people tolerate? How much can we get away with? How little information can we put out there? Because it did seem really, really odd to me that most of our gasoline is brought in by truck and train. So a broken pipeline is why we don't have any gas. Okay, and I understand that we have a complex
brought in by truck and train from a place that gas is piped to.
I understand that there are distribution centers and there are refinery points and so forth. I realize that I'm oversimplifying it, but at the same time, the advantage to a truck is that it doesn't matter if the pipe breaks. If we have to start rolling trucks in from Ohio or wherever, because that's where we have to get the gas from, then that's where we get the gas from. And I'll just go ahead and add my own little personal thing on this. I think price gouging is good. I really do. Oh, we're running out of oil, so it was $2 a gallon, and now they want to charge 10. Good. Fuck them. You know what that does? That means gas stations don't run out of gas. And while it would suck if I had to pay $10 a gallon for gas, if I had such an emergency that I did not care about the price of gas, I would be so happy that the gas was available, even if 5 gallons cost me 50 fucking dollars. It was a thing. Even my boss at my new job, who I would describe as mostly a pretty conservative individual, was like, "Man, this price gouging just makes me so angry." And I'm like, "Well, it really doesn't me. It doesn't."
And
So
a sudden hike of 20 or 30 or 40 cents a gallon, that is not gouging. Remember back when 9/11 happened and gas was, what, 97, 98 cents, $1.03 maybe? And all of a sudden there were stations charging $5, $6, $7 overnight. That is gouging. That's taking advantage of the situation. We haven't seen anything on that level with this incident.
yeah, but at 9/11, we shut down entire sectors of our economy for 48 hours.
Yes.
I could see people being worried about running out of gas in that scenario. There were no airplanes in the sky, and that will probably be the only time ever in our lifetime that we'll be able to make that claim.
No. Let's hope so. I hope that's the only time in our lifetime that's ever the case. Yes. Probably, it's pushing it.
So, yeah, the oil pipeline. But what I really want to know is, man, a 90-minute debate with no breaks. Can they pump enough methamphetamines into Hillary to keep her going for 90 minutes?
There's something strange about that too. There's something really strange about that.
About the no brakes part?
Yep.
Or the fact that you gave me a rim shot when I pointed out that the no brakes.
You made a meth joke about, Hillary.
A man and his toys.
Ladies and gentlemen, this show is over a year old, and Chris Lowry has only just discovered sound effects.
Oh, y'all should have been on the show last week. Rod and I and Steve, we were having a heyday with the funny hats and the eye patches and glasses and shit. I mean, there's nothing quite like a dude with a beard.
You ought to be charging Google Chrome. Give me my beard back, you bastard.
Hey.
For giving them all free advertising.
So what do you think's weird about it, John? Is it
What I think is weird is that it was specifically announced that there's no brakes. In other words, it's like the old Shakespearean quote, "Methinks she doth protest too much." When you have a candidate who is notoriously unable to stand for more than 25 or 30 minutes, and now you're saying, but she's going to have a debate for an hour and a half, even though we know she's incompetent, incontinent, and has a tendency to flip out when there are flash cameras, I'm suspicious. They're trying to demonstrate that this is a brand new Hillary, bulletproof to potty breaks and flash cameras.
Yeah, I had a very similar thought that this whole thing was a setup. They pump her full of enough drugs to get her through the 90 minutes, and
how
then
do you know you're even going to be seeing the real Hillary? Is it a live one-on-one? Are they going to be facing each other in a podium, or is this Hillary Clinton talking on a video screen?
It's supposed to be no sitting, all standing, 2 podiums on the stage with the moderator, 90 minutes solid. That's what it's supposed to be.
I'm suspicious.
Well, yeah, because if they can get her through the
5
debate,
days
they can
ago,
go,
she
what
had
health
pneumonia.
problems?
5 days ago, she was coughing up bits of her lung. Her eyes are going all over the place. She's swaying like this. She's giving the turkey, the turkey neck thing. And now all of a sudden, she's Superwoman.
Yeah,
Nothing's
she didn't
rotten
have
in
pneumonia.
Denmark.
You know
No,
why I don't think she had pneumonia?
I thought I saw an article where the lady that ran the DNC and them who admitted that they interfered with Bernie. You know, I think some of them are actually thinking replacement candidate. What if she strokes out on them? If some
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question, but I mean, wouldn't Tim Kaine be next?
This is sort of a blood vessel that's kind of stopped up. They said they were giving her Coumadin, but that's
How do you know she's not a double? A body double. And I'm not kidding.
well, what I'm saying, the eye problems and all that kind of stuff. I was reading somewhere that the blood vessels are probably still kind of stopped up, and she still has constrictions and stuff like that.
That's right. Ergo, she should not be able to be doing a 90-minute debate, especially not with Donald Trump, who will eat her for breakfast.
Oh, he's not
That's what
going
he does.
Really, really looking forward to that shit too.
My point is that you don't go from your deathbed, neurological problems all over the place, bouncing off the walls. You got a colostomy bag tied to your leg, and now all of a sudden you're a super healer and you can do all things and have a
I'm going
90-minute
to be
debate.
popcorn for this one.
There's something strange.
I'm going to have plenty of popcorn on Monday night.
Yeah,
telling you.
they're gonna.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna pump her full of so many drugs. She's gonna get through the 90 minutes because if money is no object and ethics are no object, well, I mean, shit, you can do anything for an hour or two at that
And
point.
you can have a body double, a perfectly rendered body double. For all we know,
Yeah,
it
but
needs
if you've
5
got
days.
if you've got a debate moderator and you've got Donald Trump both standing 20 feet away from her, that's tough at that point.
That's what the Hillary Clinton we all know and hate couldn't do it.
Well, I mean, she's been having to cancel events because people ain't showing up.
that's hilarious. By the way, she had one recently that literally no one showed up.
And yet she's stealing 47% of the vote.
There was one guy who showed up at one of them the other day, and he was Republican. He just wanted to see.
And yet the mainstream press tells you that she's got 47% of the vote. So, smoke and mirrors then or smoke and mirrors now? Were you lying then or you lying now? I don't know. But if you're telling me that a person who cannot bring anyone to a debate or anyone to a presentation is going against a guy who can bring in 20,000 and fill a stadium and have people waiting in line on the blocks aside, and they're going neck and neck. We all know that she lost to Bernie Sanders. We all know. The difference between Bernie Sanders support and Donald Trump support is that Bernie Sanders supporters were all naive millennials who had never been screwed over before. They didn't know what to do about it, so they said, "Oh, I guess we all been screwed. Let's all go home and cry in our lattes." Trump supporters are not that way. These are people in their 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s who say, "I got nothing left." They are not going to back down if they get screwed. I said my bit.
So body double. They don't take Hillary and basically inflate her, pump her full of drugs or whatever. Gonna straight up put a body double in there, so there's no possibility of her having one of those coughing spasms or one of those eye rolling spasms on stage.
Yeah.
You can just see the daggers coming from, Trump will be over there like doing this thing, like the sparks coming out of his fingers. Die.
Honestly, whenever Trump's doing anything with the press anymore, I see I see Richard Gere's part from Chicago where he's singing the press corps rag, and he's got all the reporters out there on the strings. Oh yeah.
Yeah, as a quick aside,
It's just science fiction.
Did anybody else laugh when Donald Trump trolled the hell out of the media?
Nah.
Oh yeah. Now, why don't you go ahead and hit that one? But yeah, it was a brilliant move.
So Donald Trump calls a press conference for 10 a.m. and he's got this huge announcement about Obama's birtherism, or the birther issue with regard to Obama, and he's an hour late. So all the news networks are, and it's funny because I even flipped over to cable news when I thought it was going to start, and it didn't start in time. And so, well, we're waiting on Donald Trump. We're waiting on Donald Trump. So they're waiting on him with bated breath. And he gives like a 30-second statement that's like, yeah, it looks like Obama was born in Hawaii, but Hillary started it, so go question her. And you could hear eyeballs exploding behind television monitors at news stations because it was like, that's it? That's it? What's crazy to me is, did they really think that Donald Trump was going to come out and go, golly, guys, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I screwed that completely up.
That's what they thought.
Why? They've got a year and a half of evidence that Donald Trump, even when he is wrong, is not going to admit that he was wrong. So you just got to wonder, like, at what point, I mean, these people keep banging the same head into the same wall in the same little teeny tiny spot there, and it's just not working for them.
All right, Cameron, your audio just got real muddy all of a sudden.
My favorite takedown of Hillary Clinton is that Olbermann from 2008. He didn't like her at all. He just took her completely down, right, for all kinds of stuff. And I guess now they don't like her, even though she did all that stuff that was just completely unforgivable. Here she is again. But I like watching the video of him doing, calling around on the stuff that she did back in 2008 when Obama was running. And I remember something about her campaign putting stuff out that would be a little bit racist. It was pretty obvious that she was behind it. And then she had the Geraldine Ferraro problem. The lady was running her mouth. Had to fire her from the campaign manager position. These people don't remember what happened 8 years ago. They think that she's going to represent them good now.
Well, she's got that little D next to her name, and she's not the evil Donald Trump who's guaranteed to be the next Hitler. So,
oh, I know. I've got all kinds of people on my feed that think that they're self-actualized or something. They think that they're intelligent. I'm like, well, okay. So you're intelligent. So explain that to me, how that works, being that intelligent. You know, because I watch folks, you know, for years at a time. I don't just watch them just for a minute. I watch them for years at a time. And these little people that are these Democrats, I mean, when it comes time to go get at the trough, they get at the trough. They're gonna get. They're looking out for number one, and all these little issues and interests that they talk about. I don't know if they believe in those things so much as they would have you believe. Like the stuff with the carbon, right? We're gonna sell you the right to have a manufacturing process.
Yeah,
Because
Wall Street is so evil, and we're going to give them the ability to trade puffs of smoke back and forth. But it's going to work out, guys. That's how we solve climate change. We give Wall Street more power.
And that's going to somehow manage to stop the tide from rising. By the way, roll tide. So it's not going to work. None of this stuff works. Come on. Think it through for a minute. You know, they've been hitting it real hard this week. Even Gingrich was making points this week. Gingrich was making points this week. You know, talking about their inconsistencies. No, oh my God, Gingrich pointing out inconsistencies is just like, it hurts to listen to the man talk. But he's right. You know, some of the cities have been under control of the Democrats for 30, 50, 70, 100 years, and they're kind of stinky.
Yeah, same small group of problems that they always promise to fix that never quite get fixed.
Always got the same chronic problems. And, you know, back when there wasn't any such a thing as a Republican in the South, what did we end up with? We ended up with sharecropping and stuff like that. It's just amazing how democratic they are about stuff. You know, we want you to be our slave. That's what they think. And they know how to put on a mask and act like they don't think that, but they think that. They blue-blooded. Somebody's going to be somebody's slave. And they're going to be making money off of it somewhere. Why are y'all getting so sleepy?
You know, that's an excellent question. It's only 9:30, and you're right. We're kind of we don't have the energy tonight that we usually do, guys. Oh, sorry.
Well, when we get the trumpet out, I don't know, make some sound effects. Do something sexy. Where's all the white women at?
Where the white women at? We don't need
It's Friday night. Yeah, there's just something wrong about having something like this on Friday night. We're supposed to be out doing something on Friday night, right? And here we are talking about messed up, isn't it?
Well, that's how you get hurt, is going out on Friday night. Just ask all the people in that dance club in Orlando. Though I guess technically that happened on Saturday, but
That wasn't terrorism.
oh yeah, just like those bombs in New York and New Jersey weren't terrorism either.
That's not terrorism. That reminds me of that night in Monty Python. Just a flesh wound.
Your arm's off. No, it isn't. It's right there. Just a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound, baby. Because they can't have it. I've been waiting for, I don't know what amount of mudslinging is going to go down this weekend, but they got a debate on Monday. So, how much mud got slung today? I guess all the reporters go home on the weekend, right? I mean, CNN only plays the forensic files all weekend long. So is the mudslinging that they did today, is that all the mudslinging that's going to happen?
Oh no.
I mean, come on, man. If I was running for president and the debate's coming, I'd give them a present every day. Partridge in a pear tree.
You know, Rod, you actually make a really good analogy. The people trying to deny that these terrorist acts are terrorist attacks really are like the Black Knight from Monty Python. I mean, that is such an excellent way to put it, because it is almost funny how quickly they rush to deny what is obvious, what's right there in front of your face. Well, I mean, we arrested a guy named Muhammad that built bombs out of pressure cookers, but he's not an Islamic terrorist. No, not at all.
Well, you know that they're always trying to. They've got these little molds. I call them straw man molds. Everybody's got to fit in one of like 3 or 4 or 5 straw man molds that they have. And if you don't fit, they don't care. They'll shove you on in there. But when stuff starts happening to them that starts making them look bad, and it's not straw man, it's real, they get all kinds of upset about that. And they know that they have to flutter their wings. It's like a bunch of pigeons in the park getting poisoned. Have you heard that song?
No, I don't know nothing about no Tom Lehrer.
Ah.
Damn. Trying to sneak one by old fat boy. Nice try, though.
Well, I'm not as good. But you see what I'm saying? That's all they do.
Pigeons in the park, rock and roll.
Trump is this ultimate racist, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing it.
You know, every time somebody says Trump's a racist, I ask them, based on, what is that position based on, that assertion, that opinion? And the only thing I ever get is, well, he said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. Okay. No, he never said that. And he wants to kick all Muslims out of the country.
No.
He also didn't say that. Even the ban all Muslims, even the ban all Muslim immigrants thing.
Now,
was never even a position. His opening position was total ban on immigration from list of specific Sharia law governed known state sponsors of terrorism countries, not all Muslims.
Now, which
damn difference.
Which logical fallacy are they adhering to right there? You're not. They're saying that you're arguing something you're not arguing. That's
right, and that's right. The straw man. And you're right. They constantly go to the straw man argument. Like, for example, you cannot say this terrorist was a Muslim without one of them immediately saying, you cannot generalize all Muslims based on the actions of one terrorist.
I have a question.
Now, hang on a second. Hang on. Now, if I make the statement, this terrorist was a Muslim, and your argument is, thou shalt not generalize all Muslims based on the action of one terrorist, then my question is this. Does his being a terrorist suddenly make him not a Muslim? Because that is, in fact, what you're arguing. If my point is not that all Muslims are terrorists, but that this terrorist is a Muslim, and your argument is that you cannot assume he's a terrorist because he's a Muslim, then what you're actually saying is that no Muslims are terrorists. Likewise, with Trump's statement that among the illegal aliens, among the criminals that cross the border illegally, coming from Mexico, who are not all Mexicans, there are, not they all are, among them there are rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and drug cartel soldiers. he has not said that all of them are rapists, murderers, etc. So if your argument against that is you can't say all Mexicans are rapists, and what he said was not all Mexicans are rapists, that some rapists are Mexican, then you're locked in the whole all beetles are bugs, but not all bugs are beetles. Well, when you argue those 2 points against one another, what you're actually saying, you are arguing, and this position is actually racist, that no Mexicans are rapists or murderers or drug dealers. And that is clearly fallacious.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
I want to just, I don't want to touch the Mexican thing. We have enough problems as it is. But let's just address one of your issues. You are approaching it like a philosophical syllogism. If the person is a terrorist, they cannot be a Muslim. Well, what is the basis for that reasoning? Well, we are told, we are assured that Islam is the religion of peace. It must be the religion of peace, blah, blah, blah. Some of their point directors are telling them or giving them speaking points or thinking points. Religion or Islam cannot be a violent religion, even though you are confronted with evidence directly in front of your face. It can't be. It is a logical disconnect to the liberal mind. Now, my question is, how can it be that a liberal thinks that bringing in thousands of people who wiser mind know are filled with terrorists, rapists, and murderers, that is going to work out well for them? Liberals live in inner cities. They're the ones who are occupying places like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. That's where they like to hang out. That's where the problems will be. Once again, they are defending and promoting a situation which will hit them first and hardest. Who is going to suffer if Ahmed, the friendly neighborhood Muslim, decides he doesn't want to be friendly next week? It's going to be them, statistically. I just do not understand how even how a grown-up adult human being who has reached 35 or 40 years old can have that kind of a logical disconnect that they would say to themselves, if I pretend long enough and hard enough with my fingers in my ears, that we will all be living in Bambi land.
Well, because they've got evidence that that's how the world works. The entire world banking system basically collapsed in 2008, and the government got together and signed a few pieces of paper and magically made all that go away. And we live in a society where on a micro and a macro level, there are no consequences for your actions. And you're also discouraged from receiving rewards. So, I mean, you could say there's no positive or negative consequences for positive or negative actions. And when you go through your entire life, the first 30, 35 years of your life, you always had a safety net. You always had a bailout. You always had a parachute. You could logically understand that that's not how the world works, and yet you'll keep right on with your bad habits. There are a lot of people that go through financial counseling that say things like, "Well, actually, I've known my wife and I were spending too much money for a year now, but you just keep putting down that credit card and it keeps getting accepted, so it doesn't feel like you have a problem." And then, one day you get a freaking $458 bill in the mail, and all of a sudden your world changes. So that's what I think it is. I think so many people now have gone through their entire life being shielded from consequences and being able to run to an authority figure and have this authority figure suss your problem out for you. So it is outside of their realm of experience to really try and get these people to understand that, you know, this is a problem that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to ignore this bully and then he'll get bored and go away. That's not the way this one works. They don't have anything to compare it to. It's never happened to them before.
It's a good answer. That's a good answer. So in essence, they are so accustomed to being coddled all their lives that they feel that if they just obey and say the right words, that Big Mama will take care of them again.
Yeah, basically. That's how it's worked all the way up to this point.
Big Mama says that Muslims are good, so if Big Mama says it, it must be true.
My question always is, these people that just want to fly into the microphone and say, oh, not all Muslims are evil. We can't generalize Muslims. My thought is always, you know, I wasn't even thinking about generalizing Muslims until you hit that fucking microphone and started actually generalizing Muslims yourself. I have this running gag. It says you can always tell who committed a crime and what their ethnicity and what their nationality was based on the way the story is reported. If it's a white Southerner, it's in the headline. White Southerner kills 2 people outside of a Baptist church.
No, it will be white racist. The word racist will be right there in the headline, even if you shot
white male racist.
Or it can be just teens.
Oh, see, and there you go. Whenever it's teens, well, that's when you know it's black kids getting up to no good, because that's when it's teens. And they also love this young man thing. Again, that's how you know. And if they won't use any descriptors at all, if it's just the suspect, well, then it's usually Islamic terror, because they don't want to tell you Muhammad's name, because as soon as his name's Muhammad, oh, really? You mean a guy named Muhammad shot up a nightclub or put a bomb in a trash can? Gee, I wonder what his motivation was. But we can't generalize.
But they don't mind profiling. They don't mind profiling everybody else. They don't mind profiling everybody else. When it comes time to talk about the white man, the honky man, and all that kind of stuff. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, I've heard my whole life. I've heard my whole life being a white guy from Georgia. You're awfully smart for a white guy from Georgia. I've had people say that to me, and that kind of stereotype. That's okay.
I've never had anybody accuse me of being smart.
A lot of my battle buddies in the Army and downrange called me Big Country. John, you probably remember that.
No.
Big Country in the Army.
No, they didn't call me that when I was
okay.
dealing.
Yeah, you weren't in Hawaii with us though.
I know some guys that are country. Chris might be from areas close to where those guys live, but Chris ain't country the way these guys are country.
No.
Look, I guarantee you. I know a guy. He might be spending the night in his deer stand so that the second the sun comes up in the morning, he's already in it.
You know, I would actually be down for that.
That's not how that works. Now that's what they tell you is happening. But they're spotlighting out there, man.
Some of them are, but the ones that don't do it, the ones that don't do it get real frustrated with the ones that do. They turn in the cheaters real quick around here.
They cut them up out there and they got them in the cooler. Ain't no telling how many deer fit in that cooler. It was one big one. One. Cut out one stamp, throw it in the cooler. And they leave the carcass out there in the field. Come on. Bubba ain't stupid.
Oh, no. Yeah, Rod and I used to talk about this a little bit. You don't know smart till you know a crafty Bubba. You come up across one of these old boys walking around in nothing but some overalls and flip-flops one day, sounding real low country. Yeah, that old boy right there can take him a roll of duct tape and some beer cans and build you something that's powered by JP8. He ain't playing. That's somebody who, despite the absence of of a formal education, knows more about at least one thing than you know, period. It's amazing when you run into those kind of guys. And it's especially shocking if you're fool enough to misjudge one by the way he speaks, and then you have a little bit of a conversation with him and discover, oh, that's the kind of mind that I've come across. God, it's hard to really bring up an example without calling somebody out by name.
Well, you know when that gets fun? We used to have a Southern drawl speaking contest at the different Mensa regional gatherings. And everybody would bring out their best Southern accent. It was bad. And they're just so polite. It's like Chip and Dale. No, I believe that I wouldn't quite do it like that. I think if I was going to do something stupid, I'd go another way. I mean, you don't want to get caught, right? I mean, if you're upset about the police shooting somebody, are you really going to go rioting? Wait a minute, I said it. I had to get myself on that one. The one thing you said you didn't want to talk about tonight.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
I brought it up.
Listen, guys, I'm gonna have to call it. I'm dead on my feet here, or on my ass rather. But
isn't this? Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you guys. Can't wait for next week now that I've got a laptop.
Yeah. What'd you buy?
An HP. Actually, I didn't buy it. My wife handled that for me. I'm very lucky in that way. I said I need this for work, and she said okay.
Well, I'm getting ready to do the thing where the guy that acts like the monkey. You're gonna tell me what kind of processor you got, how big your hard drive is.
Real power. All right, guys. Y'all have a good evening.
Good night, brother.
Well, somebody had to do it.
All right. Well,
what's the alternative to rioting?
the alternative to rioting? Well,
Yeah.
let's see.
I mean, is there more than one? Could you do what they used to do? Was that effective?
You mean peaceful protests?
Yeah. Anything except rioting. You know,
Like-
the whole. I think that blocking roads and interstates and stuff like that is going to be found to be counterproductive. I think it cuts against their own interest to do that.
Not only that, and I made this point. I made this point in arguments around the Occupy Wall Street movement. When Occupy Wall Street first kicked off, they were protesters, bunch of dirty hippies out there decrying the evils of corporate America and capitalism, and tweeting and hashtagging on their iPhones with their big headphones on, and their nice expensive tents from LL Bean wandering around in their flipping Birkenstocks and committing more rapes per capita than any other organized group of people ever. At that point, they were a nuisance. But then they got their act together and went out to Oakland, California, and shut down some shipping lanes, shut down some ports. At that point, when they closed a port, when they blockaded and prevented commerce from being conducted by the nation, at that point, what they were doing was not different than if China or Japan or Korea or Russia or anybody, well, no, not Korea, I suppose. They can't do it. But if anybody with a blue water navy was to blockade and embargo one of our California ports, what Occupy Wall Street did, shutting down that Oakland shipping port, was exactly the same as a foreign nation with a blue water navy blockading a shipping port.
That's the point.
That was an act of war conducted by American citizens against the United States, and it should have been treated as such.
That's the point. That's what Marxists have figured out. They have the same effect by attacking you with your teenage sons and daughters. And they can get away with it. Who's going to shoot a bunch of numbnuts millennials for doing a dumbass thing? Oh, well, we were just trying to make a political point. Meanwhile, there has been the actual logistical damage done, which was the cynical, true purpose behind the blockade or the blocking of the highway or the blowing up of the pipeline.
Well, let's get pragmatic.
Claim that it's all for innocent purposes or for Black Lives Matter or for Save the Bunny Rabbits or for whatever it is. It is all about shutting down the country, not about the professed agenda.
Well, you're right. Because if they wanted to do something right, they would just simply do it right. And you got to get me to agree that the policeman shooting the guy in the back was wrong. And that's just not that hard to do. It's not that hard to get the guy that lives next door, the guy that lives across the street, or the guy that lives down over yonder. And let's say the white folks know that if it's happening to the black folks, eventually it'll start happening to them. They're smart enough to realize that if the police are doing it to them, they'll eventually start doing it to everyone, right? Nobody's stupid enough to sit there and just watch injustice go down without, objecting to it. But how strenuously do you have to object? I mean, I don't think that we need to go rioting in the streets in order to get the police to try and reform themselves. You don't have to go that far, So we're getting overreactions, right?
Well, and what reform are they looking for? Oh, well, we want them to stop shooting black people. That's oh my God. I don't want to go over the numbers again. I don't want to rehash all the statistics. At this point in this conversation and in this debate nationally, either you know the numbers or you don't know the numbers. But the truth of the matter is, black men are statistically absolutely the least likely demographic in America to end a police confrontation in death. There has not been an increase in the number of police shootings. There has been a decrease over the last several decades of incidents that end in a police shooting. We may start seeing an increase in incidents that end with the police shooting the perpetrator because we are seeing an increase in the aggressiveness and the disrespect for police among basically people who vote Democrat. I think we're actually seeing, despite the visual evidence in the rioting around some of these locations where it looks like it's all black people protesting and rioting. I think we're going to see a lot more of the whole disrespect thing coming from basically idiot children, college freshmen and sophomores that are getting on a protest wagon and trying to be hip, I guess. But I suspect we're going to see more of a rise in high-profile incidents there. But the fact of the matter is, what we are actually seeing is a significant increase in the national level density of the reporting of these incidences. They're actually not reporting every time that a black man is shot by a police officer. They're going out of their way to find the ones that look the worst. Because if they were reporting every time a black man was shot by a police officer, they'd be reporting nearly 10 times as many shootings. And the other 9 out of 10 would be incredibly damning evidence against the whole Black Lives Matters arguments. Because part of their argument is that they're infuriated that blacks are disproportionately, and I hate the use of that word in political arguments, disproportionately overrepresented in incarceration. That is not true. That is an absolute false statement. Just like the argument that blacks are underrepresented, are disproportionately underrepresented in academia. Not true. In professional academia, perhaps, but in their access to college education, absolutely not the case.
It's not about the issue, it's about the riot itself. Not all blacks have bought into it. Some of them are still buying the two-legged pit bull routine that when George Soros calls and gives them a incitement to riot, they do it. And then along come 500 others to come for the looting. I don't think that the people who are in Charlotte were entirely all Charlotte people. I think most of them are out-of-towners who were bussed in for the specific purpose of raising a riot and blaming it on a police shooting when it was really, it's all about having a riot.
Well, the police chief said that 70% of them were from out of state.
Well, there you go.
The ones that were arrested, 70% were from out of state. I mean, it's just not that hard to see. I wish that folks would tone it down.
Yeah.
I think that they would be able to get a lot more done using almost any other method.
Well,
did you see the video of the white man that got captured and they were dragging him into the parking deck and they were pulling his clothes off of him? He had 8 guys that were dragging him into the darkness of a parking deck and pulling his clothes off him and beating his ass. Why?
why were they gonna light a photographer on fire?
Why? Well, they're very upset. I guess I'd be very upset too. Well, you know, when I get upset at people, I usually shut my mouth, right? And I go looking for an actual solution to a problem rather than doing something that's going to land my white ass in jail. Okay? And, you know, you just have to be intelligent enough to sit down and apply remedies to problems so that you don't commit crimes. You're either going to live in the laws or you're not. Now, where in the world is it legal to go just riding and dragging people off into parking decks, ripping their clothes off them so you can beat their ass and kill them? Where's that legal at?
That was the original point I raised when Democrats and the liberal mentality is encouraging this kind of behavior, and when they can't get enough rioters, then they import Muslims to bring in more problems. How do they think that's going to work out well for them? They can look and see that coddling crime and coddling rioters results in burned out cities. Ferguson cost over $100 million.
The Democrats make a lot of money off of the welfare state. And in order to perpetuate the welfare state, there's certain things that they have to do. It's not going to perpetuate itself because people are going to rise up. They're going to get educated. They'll figure out how to do better. Unless you got a bunch of Democrats sitting around telling them how not to do better. Right? My thesis about these people is that they're pretty evil. Right? The EBT card goes to the Kroger store and they swipe it and they're buying goods at full price. Right? There's no government cheese anymore. They got rid of that. You know what I'm saying? They're not doing it as cheaply as possible. They're not doing it as effectively as possible.
They're doing it as expensively and as ineffectively as possible because then you need a bureaucrat.
So
the whole point is a bureaucrat hiring program.
So this is what we're seeing is the welfare state self-perpetuating itself. That's what's happening.
You either get better or you don't. That's it.
Well, I'm not saying that anybody's not smart enough to go to college, because I went to college with a whole lot of folks, right? Black and white, all kinds of different people. They were there. You know what I mean? And they got, we've got doctors. Our dentist is a black guy, okay? It doesn't matter to me. He was recommended by everybody, okay? Folks is folks. A lot of people don't believe that, but folks is folks. But when you can get a lot of folks to just destroy their own lives, right? They're going to get fed after they grind themselves up. They're going to feed themselves to the welfare state, and that's going to make all those white people who run the welfare state richer.
Until the riot comes home and tears them out of their house, and they're the guy being dragged off into that corner, and that's where it winds up.
They're not commies. Haven't we discussed this before? The commies in Russia will make you go get a job. They're not going to tolerate you not working. You're going to carry your weight, and they're going to make sure you have enough money to eat on, right?
Yuri Bezmenov says that all of these lefty liberals, the degenerates, the race baiters, the panderers, are just useful idiots to destroy the state, to create communism around the world. Communism is not about making people equal or happy or whole or well. It's about destruction.
Well, I disagree with you about the communism part, because I think what they actually want is anarchy.
Yeah. Nihilism, anarchy, destruction for its own sake.
That's war profiteers. The Confederacy in collapse and Rhett Butler, running the blockades and all this kind of stuff. And, ain't no telling what all kinds of craziness went on with that. Right?
That's what they want.
It's in total collapse. And how much does it cost then? Didn't we start out talking about a pipeline? A little pipeline sprung a little leak.
That's what they told you.
Well, they said that 300,000 gallons leaked out.
So?
How many was it?
It doesn't matter. 300,000 gallons is nothing.
Well, I know that.
That's a neighborhood's gas supply. That's nothing.
I know.
Yeah, that's they report it as if 200. It was 250,000 gallons is what they said leaked out at the Alabama leak. We're talking about a pipeline that pumps like I think it was 1.5 million gallons a day. So, okay, yeah, it's a big mess. I don't know what the environmental impact of that is, but 250,000 gallons, that's not the lake.
Well, when you start,
25,000 cars at 10 gallons apiece. That's a small town's gas supply for the day. Big freaking deal.
yeah, but what we're saying, what I was alluding to, is that the Democrats managed to use the welfare state to make themselves rich, and all these little pretenses and stuff like that add up to something, right?
What it's adding up to is, in the 80s or whatever, when you and I were thinking about it, it adds up to a continuation of the welfare state. However, now they have doubled down on it, and they're trying to go past the welfare state to the anarchy state.
Well, yeah, but what people would do on their own is they would go to church and they would study the Amish, and they would become more Amish-like and more self-sufficient because they get tired of things.
They won't allow that.
You want to have something. Well, I mean, what kind of life are you having if you're having to sell the money on your EBT card so you can get?
It doesn't matter. They don't matter. What matters is the chaos. First, the point of the black rioter is to be broke and need welfare, so you employ bureaucrats. Oh, well, we're tired of that game. It's played out. Well, why don't we just encourage them using selected memes and selected videos to encourage them to have a riot for its own sake? Ultimately, the idea, I suppose, is to tear down Western society to enable a globalist New World Order to take over. That is not going to work out well for leftists. If you are running a globalized, New World, centralized totalitarian system, what possible use does such a system have for a lifetime welfare recipient who can contribute nothing? It will eliminate him.
I'm going to call it. We're looking at 2200, and John, you have just touched something that I want to talk about, and I do not want us to get into it when we're already running past 2200, and I want to start. I want to be able to give some time to it, and I want to get some of our other hosts involved in it.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and put this one down there for homework. We got 3 viewers right now. You guys go ahead and take a look at this stuff too. Here's the question: if it is the aim of the left, if globalization, this idea of New World Order, one world government, globalization is their objective, but at the same time, they want to get the big money out of politics. Now, let's not forget, you cannot take the money out of politics. That is not possible. Politics is the management of the money of a nation. Politics is not anything but a political servant, a lawmaker, a law enforcement agency, or a law interpretation agency. The legislative, the judicial, and the executive branches, they are essentially our purchasing agencies. The jobs of our elected officials are to take our money and to purchase services on our behalf. And if they're spending too much money on that and taking too much money from us to do that, and we're not getting good value for our dollar, then what we have are ineffective purchasing agents. Now, as the whole left is bent on this globalization, global harmony, cooperation thing, but also claiming to be hell-bent against the large corporations, the question I ask you is this: who the hell do you think is globally cooperating? I mean, are we globally cooperating with Russia and China to build roads and bridges? Hell no. But we have massive corporations that are globally cooperating with other nations' massive corporations to produce comestible products. So the problem of the left, the constant problem of the Democrat, just like the aggregation of all of their tiny disparate hate groups, you know, they champion the Muslims. Well, the Muslims kill gays and blacks and Christians. They champion the blacks. Well, the black men are typically more homophobic than any other ethnicity. Amusingly, they're also disproportionately overrepresented in the gay community. That surprised me to find out. But then you've got the gays and lesbians and the whole LGBTQ thing, and they're all voting for the same guys that are trying to make sure that the Muslims have access to their Sharia law options so that they can get away with killing LGBTQ members. The most amazing thing that the left does is manages to band together all these hate groups, blacks, gays, Muslims, KKK, and keep them all voting the same, even as they're all trying to kill each other. That's just mind-boggling to me. But how do you expect to achieve that sort of globalized cooperation that you're talking about, even with a completely totalitarian global government, let alone a quote, democratic one? That's your homework. Think about those issues. Think about those questions and that madness. And until next week, this has been the Brushfire Mind. We'll see you next Friday night at 2100. And remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.